When the HOA president, Karen, tried to bully her way into our home claiming an inspection, I refused her entry. Furious, she called 911, pretending we were violent trespassers. But what she didn't know was that my wife, a 911 dispatcher, answered that call, and she turned Karen's own lie against her. It was one of those bright Saturday mornings that made everything look perfect. Sunlight poured across the lawn, birds perched on the mailbox, and the smell of fresh coffee drifted from the kitchen. My wife, Sarah, had just gotten off a long night shift at the county emergency dispatch center. She was still in her pajamas, hair messy, eyes tired but glowing when she smiled. We'd moved into this quiet neighborhood just 8 months ago, hoping for peace after years in the city. What we didn't count on was the HOA, or more specifically, Karen Delaney, the self-appointed queen of the cul-de-sac. Karen had been a thorn in our side since week 1. First, she left passive-aggressive notes about non-compliant trash bins. Then came the warning about our flower colors not being HOA approved. She even snapped photos of our dog and emailed them to the board, complaining about unlicensed pets. So, when I saw her marching up the driveway that morning with a clipboard and 2 men in polo shirts trailing behind her, I knew we were in for trouble. I set my mug down and stepped onto the porch. "Morning, Karen. What brings you here this time?" She smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Good morning, Mr. Grant. We're conducting a mandatory HOA home inspection. There have been reports of unauthorized interior modifications." I blinked. "Interior modifications? You mean inside the house? You're not coming in." Her smile stiffened. "You're required to comply under Section 4A of the Community Agreement." "Section 4A doesn't give you authority to enter private property," I said. "You can check the outside. That's it." Karen's tone shifted from fake sweet to clipped and icy. "If you have nothing to hide, why are you refusing? This is for the safety and uniformity of the neighborhood." Behind her, one of the men muttered, "We could just report it." Sarah appeared behind me, holding her coffee cup. "You're not coming inside," she said flatly. "We already know our rights, Karen." Karen's eyes narrowed. "You people think the rules don't apply to you. I'm filing a non-compliance report immediately," I sighed. "Do whatever you want, just get off my porch." She turned, fuming, then suddenly whipped out her phone. "Fine," she hissed. "If you won't cooperate, I'll call the sheriff. I'll report an aggressive homeowner refusing lawful inspection." I laughed. "You're going to call 911 because I told you to leave my property?" "You'll regret this," she snapped, dialing anyway. She stepped to the sidewalk, phone pressed to her ear, her voice rising as she exaggerated every word. "Yes, there's a man threatening me outside his home. He's yelling, refusing inspection. I feel unsafe." Sarah and I just stared at each other. She mouthed, "Oh no, she didn't." Because what Karen didn't know, what made this all about to go very wrong for her, was that Sarah wasn't just my wife. She was one of the senior dispatchers for the same county Karen was calling, and that morning, even though she was off shift, the dispatch rotation still forwarded calls to her screen as backup monitoring. Her tablet pinged with the incoming report, the same one Karen was making right outside our house. Sarah opened the feed and smirked. "Guess who just called 911 on us?" Sarah sat down at the kitchen table, tablet glowing in front of her, as Karen's voice filled her headset. "This is 911. What's your emergency?" Sarah said calmly, keeping her tone professional even though I could see the fire in her eyes. "There's a man outside his house yelling at me," Karen cried. "He's being violent, refusing a lawful HOA inspection, and I'm scared for my safety." Sarah's lips twitched. "Ma'am, can you confirm your location?" "Ridgeview Lane, house number 12, Karen snapped. "The Grants. They're unstable. I've warned the board about them." Sarah kept typing. "Understood. Can you describe the threat?" Karen hesitated. He raised his voice. "And he's blocking me from performing my duties." "Did he touch you or brandish a weapon?" "No, but he looked like he might," Karen said. "I need officers here immediately." Sarah nodded, clicking a few keys. "Units are on their way. Stay where you are." Then she muted the mic and looked at me, her face a mixture of disbelief and satisfaction. "She's actually trying to frame us. I'm forwarding the recording straight to dispatch command." Within 2 minutes, her supervisor, Deputy Communications Chief Rogers, had reviewed the live feed. He recognized our address, Sarah's name, and immediately flagged the call for on-scene oversight. By the time the sheriff's SUV rolled up, Karen was already rehearsing her victim story on the sidewalk. Crocodile tears and all, Sheriff Dalton, a no-nonsense man who'd dealt with Karen's reports before, stepped out. "Morning, Karen. Got a call you were threatened?" She rushed toward him. "Yes, Sheriff." He refused an inspection and yelled in my face. I feared for my life. Dalton glanced at me, then at Sarah, who now stood beside me, calm and composed. "You Grant folks doing okay?" Sarah nodded. "We're fine. And by the way, the entire 911 call's already logged, with our internal monitoring system." Karen froze. What? Dalton raised an eyebrow. "Your wife works dispatch, doesn't she, Grant?" "Yep," I said. She took Karen's call herself. Sarah folded her arms. "You filed a false police report, Karen. That's a felony in this county." Karen's mouth opened, then closed. "I didn't know she was listening." Dalton sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Karen, we've been through this before. You don't have authority to enter people's homes, and you sure as hell can't use emergency services to settle HOA disputes." One of the officers stepped forward, holding a body cam. "We'll need your statement, ma'am." Karen tried to backpedal. "It was a misunderstanding. I only wanted compliance." "Compliance doesn't involve lying to 911, Dalton said. You're under arrest for filing a false report and misuse of emergency resources." The look on her face, shock, outrage, disbelief, was almost comical. "You can't arrest me. I'm the HOA president." Dalton smirked. "You can be the president of Mars. You still can't break the law." As they led her to the patrol car, the two inspectors she'd brought tried to slip away quietly, but another officer stopped them. "We'll need your IDs too, gentlemen." Turned out they weren't HOA employees at all, just hired maintenance guys she'd convinced to act official. Sarah exhaled slowly as the cruisers drove off. "Well," she said, "that escalated fast." I laughed. "You literally arrested her with her own call. That's poetic." "Better than poetry," she said with a grin. "That's justice." The story spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Within hours, our phones buzzed with texts from neighbors. "Did Karen really get arrested? You guys okay?" "She finally got what she deserved." By Monday morning, the HOA held an emergency meeting, without Karen. We didn't plan to attend, but curiosity got the better of us. When we arrived, half the room applauded. The HOA treasurer, a mild-mannered man named Joel, stood at the podium. "It seems Mrs. Delaney overstepped her authority," he said nervously. "Effective immediately, she's suspended pending the outcome of the investigation." "Investigation?" I asked. "Sheriff's Department found she'd made multiple false 911 calls over the last year," he said. "Apparently, she's been using emergency response to enforce her personal vendettas." Sarah shook her head. "That's dangerous, tying up real emergency lines." Joel nodded. "It gets worse. She's been fining homeowners and pocketing portions of the payments. County auditors are involved now." A murmur spread through the crowd. Neighbors who'd once been afraid to cross her looked relieved, even liberated. After the meeting, one elderly resident, Mrs. Alvarez, came up to Sarah and hugged her. "We all knew she was trouble, but nobody had proof." "You gave us that," Sarah smiled gently. "I just did my job." The following week, local news stations picked up the story. HOA president arrested after false 911 call backfires. Footage from the sheriff's body cam went viral. You could see Karen's smug face turn to horror when Dalton mentioned Sarah's name. The clip racked up hundreds of thousands of views online. Karen eventually pled guilty to filing a false report, misuse of emergency resources, and harassment. She paid heavy fines and resigned from the HOA permanently. The HOA board, embarrassed but determined to repair its reputation, offered Sarah and me free membership for the next year and promised reforms, including banning door-to-door inspections. A month later, peace returned to our street. Kids rode bikes again without fear of citations, neighbors chatted over fences, and the air felt lighter somehow. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Sarah chuckled softly. "You know," she said, "I've taken thousands of 911 calls." "Never thought I'd take one from right outside our house," I grinned. "Bet they didn't cover that in training." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "You think Karen will ever show her face around here again?" "Maybe," I said. "But if she does, I bet she knocks first." We laughed quietly as the crickets started their evening chorus. For once, the HOA's constant noise, the arguments, Threats, fines had fallen completely silent. Justice had a way of shutting people up, and in the end, Karen's greatest weapon, her arrogance, became the very thing that exposed her.